Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to my F1 23 My Team Career Mode. This is the pre-season episode for Season 2. If you guys did miss the previous episode, the finale of our first ever season on this game, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. And now it is time to set up our brand new season over the winter break. We've got an R&D regulation change resetting the aerodynamics and the chassis going into next season, but we've done some amazing work in Season 1 to adapt every single one of these parts. We had to make a bit of a sacrifice at the end of this season, but we managed to hold on to P5 in the championship versus McLaren, whilst also diverting all our resource points to adapting those parts to keep every upgrade we made into Season 1, into Season 2, and even trying to go for some upgrades on the engine additionally, which ironically annoyingly fails, so we have to repurchase that engine upgrade at the end of the season here, but that'll be locked in for next season as well. And right at the death of it, at the end of this season and the activity timeline before we end this current season, we finally unlock a third secondary sponsor because we're now level 15 acclaim, so that's going to really help us out next season just to earn so much more money per race if we match our sponsor goals. And you know, we found out, especially in the last third of the last season, that was the real larger challenge. The R&D was flowing in quite nicely, but actually gaining enough cash to spend on the HQ facilities and also potential new teammates was seeming a bit of a challenge through the last third of that season. Also, a rogue buggy contract system before Abu Dhabi didn't help things out, but in this video we'll be setting up Season 2 and we will be instigating our own second contract system, because really, in reality, this is when the contract negotiations and the driver market should open up for the next season, not before Abu Dhabi, so we're having to kind of work around the game being buggy. It was a pretty damn decent debut season with one win in that first season, which was quite a surprise really, and 7th in the Drivers' Championship for us, and now that's opened up some possibilities with us being in 5th place to some new sponsors, new main title sponsor, which will also come with a signing bonus. Now, DSP Optics have a finished 3rd or better in the Constructors' Championship target, and that gets us a signing bonus of 5.5 million, which is quite a lot of money and could help us towards upgrading this entire team in terms of HQ, a brand new teammate, and to be honest, I think for getting 5th place last season, I think the target has to be surely 3rd place into Season 2. We're going to remain loyal with Honda as our power unit into that second season, and we're going to be starting it with over $31 million to potentially spend on HQ facility upgrades before the first race of the season. But before we get to any of that, it's time to present to you our brand new car for Season 2. Taking in some suggestions from you guys in the comments in recent episodes, our main sponsor for Season 2 is going to be Sprite. It just makes sense with the color scheme we've got, the electric green, Sprite having a green color palette with the Sprite logo fitting so well on the side pods. You'll notice though there's quite a lot of silver and chrome on this car, taking inspiration from the recent fever of a chrome Formula 1 car. We've got chrome and electric green, with the electric green colors darted all around, and actually eagle-eyed viewers may notice the base design of this livery actually is still based off the original in-game decal design that we had in Season 1. The same block patterns and tribal decals are darted around all the car, but it's now all dressed in an all brand new color of chrome and electric green. Our Honda partnership remains strong and has been enhanced with a partnership with Mugen Motorsports, as you'll notice on the front wing as well now. And overall, I think makes a pretty mean evolution of this livery into Season 2. Welcome welcome the new chrome and electric green Aarava Archer racing car. And hopefully this is going to be a car that we can really start to challenge the top 3 in the championship for and ruffle the feathers of the established order. We've got $32 million off the bat here in this preseason video to upgrade HQ facilities, and also we've got over 5,000 R&D points to spend on the car potentially before that first race of the season. And speaking of the first race of the season, welcome to the brand new Season 2 custom calendar. Round 1 is now back down under in that fan favourite spot of the Australian Grand Prix. We then go to Qatar for the second round of the season before hopping over to the nearby Bahrain circuit for round 3. Then we hit the real European portion of the season, the Spanish Grand Prix and Monaco, and then we go to the favourite combo all the way to Canada and then back to Europe for then the Austrian Grand Prix and the Portuguese Grand Prix, making its return to the F1 season for round 8 halfway through the season. Then to Silverstone, Baku, Monza to Spa, and then we go to Las Vegas for round 13 before we get to the final leg of flyaways, the Brazilian Grand Prix, Jeddah and Abu Dhabi, our finishing combo, which in recent seasons on previous F1 games has been an utterly amazing finish to a season, because Jeddah is so intense to set up then a finale at Abu Dhabi. And I think we've got a pretty exciting season ahead of us, because this is what the R&D chart looks like. All that work on adapting the car, adapting the aero and the chassis upgrades has paid off. All the pain in those last few races versus McLaren has paid off, because we're going to be starting Season 2 as the 3rd best team on the grid, only behind Red Bull and Aston Martin. You can actually see we're one of very few teams to actually be making upgrades into this season. Another one is actually Williams, who retained a lot of their R&D work, but every other team failed to adapt every single upgrade they had last season, and it's only ourselves and Williams that really retained upgrades, and we actually made a step forwards. Ferrari are now below us, Mercedes having won the Constructors' Championship and Lewis Hamilton his 8th world title, they've taken a nosedive to below McLaren and Haas, so they spent way too much work getting Lewis that 8th championship and a Constructors' Championship off Red Bull that they may have just shot themselves in the foot for this season, putting too many resources into last year. It all still looks pretty damn tight in terms of the field spread. That's something that stayed put from Season 1 at the end of it, you know, compared to the very start of the game. I think the entire grid from the top team to the bottom is a lot closer, so it's going to make it for a very challenging entire season. But for us, it's a great first step, and actually just completely proves that we made the right decision all those episodes ago at siphoning off R&D to adapt every single upgrade we made. And even though it was very painful last year, now we can start spending money and making upgrades, and we immediately go ahead to purchase an upgrade on the aerodynamics part of our HQ facilities. When that upgrade comes in, our aero facility will be up to spec 2. Our chassis is already at spec 2 now, because I actually purchased an upgrade before the winter break, so that got installed as we went into this kind of, you know, pre-season period. Looking at the powertrain, tempted to make that spec 2. Eventually we will have to stop any bottlenecking, but for now we're going to upgrade the marketing activities management facility to try and boost maybe the chances of us just earning some extra cash and resource points from activity timeline week to week basically, and then also the fitness center on the personnel to boost our teammates' racecraft awareness and focus, which is all going to be pretty important this season, because we need to be hand in hand with our teammates scoring points if we want to really challenge the top guys in the Constructors' Championship. And with our chassis upgrade already on spec 2, we can now actually go ahead and purchase another upgrade finally on the chassis to try and catch up to people, because the chassis and the aero are both our weakest parts of the car compared to our engine. I think chassis, we're the 5th from bottom team on aero. Chassis, I think we're right in the middle in P6, so they both need some improvement to try and match our engine side of things. But, you know, it's so close, you can see on the little comparison charts, that I actually think just 1 or 2 major upgrades or 2 minor upgrades may be enough to really make a difference in those 2 departments. And hopefully some of those upgrades will come in time for the first race of the season down under at the Australian GP. We're going to go through the activity timeline, see those upgrades coming in for our HQ facilities, and then hopefully eventually see those upgrades coming in. But we're we're now going to take a pause moment and also go back in to now upgrade our engine facility. We're going to go ahead and purchase the build time upgrade. So we've still got the lowest fabrication on our engine, so we can't make simultaneous upgrades. But because our engine is already so good, I feel like it's better just to go for build time rather than number of upgrades, because we don't need to be upgrading the engine in a massive hurry compared to other facilities. And we also upgraded the durability as well, you'll have seen there for the fabrication. Unfortunately though, we start off the pre-season with an upgrade failing on our car, so we have to go ahead and repurchase that upgrade. That was annoyingly the actual very first upgrade I purchased on the chassis with Spec 2 upgrades unlocked, so that's a bit frustrating to have to spend a further 800 R&D points on that next major weight reduction upgrade. But we did have quite a few R&D points in hand, so we can afford to do it. It's just annoying not to make the most of the R&D points that we did save over into Season 2's pre-season on extra upgrades, but at the same time, we also would have hit a bottleneck in terms of how many simultaneous upgrades we could have done. So we're just going to have to bite the bullet and repurchase those. So we've got 2 minor air upgrades, 1 major weight reduction, and then 1 minor tire upgrade. And I think 3 of those upgrades should come in just in time for the first race of this season. And right at the end, we have enough cash to spend on another personnel upgrade on the driver pace of our teammate. I also want to add and interject into this total we've got on the top right there. That is also including the money I've taken away for our theoretical new teammate that we are going to get. So I'm not going to skirt around and just get a free new teammate. We have actually lost the money that we would have spent on a new teammate, obviously just kind of working around the broken contract system. And whilst I've been talking about that, you may have noticed that annoyingly our air upgrades both failed on the car. So I think the weight reduction will come in time for the first race, but those 2 air upgrades are going to have to wait annoyingly. And at this point I thought, okay, let's just pause upgrades on all those other parts of the car. Let's go into some durability and purchase a minor upgrade on the ICE just to help us out, because that was a problem towards the end of last season. So 4 upgrades pending probably into round 2 of this season, but now with all of that admin sorted, it's time to present to you guys all the different driver transfers going into Season 2. Starting off with our own team, because we have swapped one Australian for another. Yep, Daniel Ricciardo, just like in real life, is returning to the Formula 1 grid full-time here with us, and he's 89 rated with our personnel upgrades. He's going to be a massively valuable teammate for us in Season 2. Piastri, don't get me wrong, he was really, really good, and I did want to potentially keep him, but I also saw a fair few of your guys' comments about wanting to swap out the teammate for Season 2, so I thought, you know what, new season, new looking car, new kind of vibe, and new ambitions. We've got to go for it. Let's go for a proven race winner. Yes, he's had a tough time in his career with that move to McLaren, but just like in real life, I think we can help maybe build back his confidence and get the old Daniel Ricciardo back out, the late breaker and the one who can maybe make a difference for us in the Constructors' Championship alongside myself. You know, we made those personal upgrades and they've already come into play with 89 rated. He's 70 focused, so he's going to have to work on that, and hopefully the first few rounds of this season get him even higher focus so he can maximize his potential. But I'm really excited about bringing Ricciardo back to the grid, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Ricciardo fans who are going to be very happy with this signing for our team. And like I said, I did spend the actual money to sign him. It was 3.5 million, well spent, I think. And that means Oscar Piastri became a free agent in the market, and he found his way back to McLaren, the team he started with, the team we poached him from. He's returned to the team, and he's alongside Valtteri Bottas, the Flying Finn who McLaren signed, you'll remember, actually before Abu Dhabi Season 1's finale. Yep, Lando Norris has left McLaren in a massive shock move, and it's going to be Bottas and Piastri. It's a pretty strong pairing. Piastri's grown up to 85 rated. He's 94 focus with that ending of a really strong ending to the season. Remember Las Vegas, where he finished in P5 ahead of us, and I like to think we helped him out with that, basically. And you've got Bottas, 89 focus, 87 rated, so they're quite equally matched, actually. I think eventually you'll see Piastri probably grow to be more of a team leader, but right now they have the experience of Bottas, they have the youthfulness, the aggression of Piastri, and it could be still a pretty exciting season for McLaren. I mean, they're now going to be amongst Mercedes properly in the R&D chart. They were a team that did lose some performance compared to season 1, but I think in comparison to Ferrari and Mercedes, they retained more of their pace from season 1 over the winter break than those other two teams. So, and you saw the upgrade rate of McLaren. They were ridiculous last season, so I reckon they could upgrade once again pretty rapidly to try and make this papaya car as quick as possible for these two drivers. But now this begs the question, where has Lando Norris gone from McLaren to Red Bull alongside his real-life pal Max Verstappen? Red Bull have dropped Sergio Perez after some really poor performances. Of course, you can maybe attribute Perez's poor performances to a reason why they weren't able to retain their Constructors' Championship, because Verstappen was right up there fighting with Hamilton for the Drivers' Championship, and so it was really more decided by the second drivers of Russell and Perez. So Red Bull have been ruthless with Sergio Perez. They've dropped him, and they've signed Lando Norris, a driver outside their family pool, but someone who I think fits really well with Red Bull. Like I said, he'll have a really good partnership with Max Verstappen, and Norris himself, he's 97 focus after a very solid season with McLaren. 92 rated, so he's got some real work to do, and I think it'll be tough for him to match Verstappen if we're really honest with ourselves, but it's a really, really exciting partnership, and Red Bull go into season 2 as the best car on the grid once again, and they no longer have Mercedes, their arch rivals from last season, to annoy them, because Mercedes made that, nose tail dive into season 2 here. So Red Bull will be the quickest cars off the bat, and well, it'll be up to us and maybe even Aston Martin to challenge them, as Aston Martin are the second best car on the grid. But this is a massively exciting pairing going to this brand new season. And we mentioned their rivals from season 1, Mercedes. Well, they retain the reigning now 8-time world champion Lewis Hamilton alongside George Russell, but their car is a lot slower than it was last season. They put too much focus on last season, and they're going to pay for it this season potentially with a real dud of a car. They're back in silver, at least what is possible in silver, as they still try and save weight as much as possible in this new era of Formula 1, but they are once again the silver arrows, but with how much weight saving they're doing with the carbon fiber on their car, it's kind of a split livery of the silver arrows and also the black Mercedes as well. But it's going to be a real tough year. Hamilton is 99 focus, having won the Drivers' Championship, which is ridiculous. I don't think I've ever seen an AI driver 99 focus, which is pretty mad, but it may all be wasted because this car is just not going to be as good as it was last season. So it's going to be a struggle. Is this going to be one of those seasons where it makes Hamilton think about bowing out early and retiring from Formula 1? He's got that 8th World Championship. If this car can't deliver him a car that can win races, get podiums, fight for the top positions, could this be the final season for Hamilton and Russell as a pairing at Mercedes? Only time will tell. Scuderia Ferrari are another team that retained their driver lineup of Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, and it was a very topsy-turvy season for them last year. Obviously, Sainz for the first half of the season was leading the championship for multiple races. We thought it was going to be Sainz versus Verstappen, and then they just completely fell away. Leclerc had all those engine failures. Sainz started to have some really poor strategies. They did pick up a little bit towards the end of season 1, though, with those back-to-back victories from Qatar to the Brazilian GP. So can they kind of use that as motivation to try and push them forwards into season 2? They're another team that lost a lot of performance relative to other teams around them, like ourselves and at Aston Martin and Red Bull. So it's going to be tough, but they need to dig deep and try and find that form they had in Qatar to Sao Paulo to try and do anything in season 2. And we just mentioned Aston Martin there. Well, it's a big change for the British outfit as they now leave the Mercedes power unit behind and partner up with Honda early, just like they will do eventually in real life after 2026. It is Aston Martin Honda, and you can see, and might be a bit confused, Fernando Alonso. He announced he was retiring from Formula 1 last season, and yet he has returned this season with his old team, Aston Martin. The wily old fox Alonso just playing a bit of a merry-go-round trick with the entire F1 paddock. It seems like he just wanted a bit of a vacation from Aston Martin whilst they sorted their crap out, and he went to McLaren just to have a bit of fun. He even left early and left Bottas to pick up the pieces for McLaren in their final race, and that's because he had no intention of ever staying at McLaren, because he was always going to return to Aston Martin. Now powered by Honda, bit of a touchy one for Fernando. They've had a history, but Aston Martin start this season as the second best team on the grid, and Lawrence Stroll has been ruthless and cut his own team from Aston Martin. He just simply was not performing at the same level as Alexander Albon last season, and now what a strong pairing this is. Alonso and Albon, based off how they both did last season in the Aston Martin, this could be a very exciting pairing for this next season of F1 23 My Team Career Mode. Lawrence, though, he wasn't completely ruthless. He found his son a place on the grid, and that is back at a team he used to drive for. It's Williams. It's going to be Lawrence Stroll and Liam Lawson alongside each other for the Gulf Williams team now. Obviously, in real life, Williams just announced they're going to be doing that Golf livery for a couple of races in 2023. Well, here in the game in Season 2, it's a reality for the entire season. Williams now don a Golf Williams livery for the entirety of Season 2. Stroll returns to the team he made his debut in Formula 1 with. Well, Liam Lawson, he didn't really have much where else to go, but it looks like Red Bull have found a way to find him a seat to gain some experience in Formula 1 as a rookie. I think he did actually the last race of the season, potentially last season as well. I couldn't really keep up with all the driver transfers with some of the lower teams, but Williams, they were one of two teams, including our own, that actually retained most of their upgrades over the winter break. So Williams actually did do some smart pre-planning for this season. Can that pre-planning continue as they try and aim to recover and return to glory in Formula 1? Alpine had a very quiet Season 1. It seems like they may have an even worse Season 2. Another team that's really taken a nosedive in the R&D chart. They retain their all-French lineup of Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon, but just like in real life, things aren't really clicking and cooking yet for the French outfit with their all-French lineup. So it's just going to be a question of, can they actually pull up their socks, get some upgrades on the car, and actually do something with this team. Season 1, it started off well. They were giving us even some headaches at the start of Season 1, but compared to McLaren, remember how quickly in the dust they got left by McLaren, even ourselves as well, in terms of R&D. So they have a lot of work to do to try and maybe keep up with the pace of the teams around them. And a team near to them on the grid that are making massive operational changes are, well, the team formerly known as Alfa Romeo, now reverting back to Sauber, as they will in real life in 2024 here in Season 2. They retain their new signing of Nico Hülkenberg, who they signed before Abu Dhabi last season alongside Zhou Guanyu when Valtteri Bottas left ship to join McLaren in the pursuit of maybe better results. But yeah, so this team is now back to being Sauber, and of course eventually they will look to become Audi in 2026 when those new engine regulations come in. So they're an all-black, bit of a bare-bones sort of livery for them. But for Hülkenberg, maybe familiar territory. Of course, Hülkenberg used to drive for the Sauber F1 team when they used to have a very bare-bones grey livery back in the day. So he'll be used to this setup and will bring a wealth of experience to the Sauber F1 team as they step into unknown territory as once again as their own branded team. Haas F1 retain their new driver lineup that they established in front of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, with the American driver Logan Sargent now driving for the American team alongside Kevin Magnussen, who's there for the experience. Haas, they actually caught us up in the R&D chart last season, was actually a little bit of a nuisance here and there, and they're actually still pretty close to some big names like Mercedes and McLaren now. So Haas, even though their lineup may not be the strongest ever, I think Haas could once again on this game be a bit of a dark horse maybe. Depends on if they can keep up pace with McLaren and Mercedes, you know, around them with upgrades. But they start the season pretty close to them and could actually maybe make some upsets in terms of that fight versus those two teams, and maybe even their more senior team, Ferrari, of course. And finally, we come to AlphaTauri, the Red Bull Junior team, and it's Yuki Tsunoda alongside Sergio Perez. Perez being dropped by Red Bull for Lando Norris, and he has unfortunately been demoted down the Red Bull family ladder to AlphaTauri. Potentially, is this something we're going to see in the future in Formula 1? Who knows? But in the game, it's happened. He's alongside Yuki in AlphaTauri, and he's going to have to kind of work what his goals are in Formula 1 now with this team. AlphaTauri, along with maybe, you know, the likes of Alfa Romeo Sauber and Williams last season, were just towards the back. We didn't really see a lot of them after we had made upgrades at the start of the season, so we're going to have to see if he sinks or swims with this demotion. And so there you have it. That's what the starting grid is looking like then for Season 2 of this F1 23 My Team Career Mode. An all brand new liveried car, the Honda engine still in the back of our car alongside Daniel Ricciardo for Season 2. It's going to be a really exciting one with a custom calendar as well. Guys, if you have enjoyed this pre-season video, be sure to hit the like button. Let me know if you're looking forward to the start of Season 2 down under at the Australian Grand Prix. But if you are new around here, do get subscribed for that and future videos, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.